tomorrow go in Washington? What's your take? What do you think they should be focusing on when they head down there?
Well, I think we need two clear confirmations from the Prime Minister that our trade disruption with the United States, tariffs, including the threat of uranium tariffs, are over. We need to stop this trade disruption between Canada and the U.S. We've supported the NAFTA deal, even though we have serious problems with it, because we were able to work with the government to get the tariffs removed. We need an assurance that this disruptive approach to Canada-U.S. trade is going to stop. That's the first thing I'd like to see the Prime Minister achieve. And if U.S. Congress reopens the NAFTA deal, we should have the ability to address some of the shortcomings the government locked us into in the deal. The second thing I'd like to see the Prime Minister achieve is a clear commitment from President Trump that he will raise the China dispute directly with President Xi at the G20 meetings. We have not heard that. The government parades around the numbers that they've called a number of countries, and countries are on our side. But what does that mean? No other countries are applying retaliatory tariffs or any type of pressure. The Meng Wanzhou extradition arrest came as a result of a U.S. request. So our dispute, the detention of our citizens, our export disruptions in canola, pork, and other things all stem from us complying with a U.S. extradition, as we should have. But the U.S. can use their position to apply pressure on the Chinese with respect to this dispute, both for the release of our citizens, the two Michaels, and for this sector-by-sector approach to pressure. I think we really need the Americans to step up, so that's what I would like to see Trudeau achieve.
Even if you get a commitment from the President on, let's say, dealing with China and saying you're bringing up with Xi, can you trust the President to be able to follow through on that? Because we've got commitments from him on a number of things before, and he's flip-flopped and changed his mind. Is it even worth trying to get that commitment?
I think it is. G20 gatherings and what happens at the margins of these meetings are critical. To be able to get a firm commitment from the U.S. President, not just that the U.S. acknowledge the poor treatment of our citizens or they acknowledge problems, a clear commitment that the U.S. President will try and get the Chinese at least to the negotiating table so that we can start stopping this crisis from spiraling, more citizens affected, more sectors affected. So those are the two things we'd like to see the Prime Minister achieve. Otherwise, we're not exactly sure what's on his priority list for Washington at all.
Nancy Pelosi brought up this morning that she's got significant concerns with the new NAFTA and that there could potentially be a hold-up in the House of getting it passed. Do you think that will affect how things get passed here, and would you be willing to go into an election period without NAFTA being passed?
We've worked with the government on NAFTA. Even though we haven't supported their approach, we feel it's NAFTA 0.5. We only have losses in this deal. We said we would support the government on passage because the U.S. dropped the 232 tariffs. In fact, the Conservatives led the final push to have the tariffs removed. We will stick by that deal, provided there's no major changes. If there's a small change to the biologic protections that would benefit Canada, the deal is substantially the same. If there's a reopening because of the House of Representatives, we watched Ambassador Lighthizer talk about somewhat the uncertainty they're facing in Congress. If the deal is substantially reopened, we obviously feel that Bill C-100 will not address it, and we would need to reconvene in the summer.
Mr. O'Toole, CBC published a story last night about Michael Cooper's comments. Do you have any reaction to them at this point?
I'm disappointed that we see speculated, unsubstantiated reports going back decades in some cases. I've seen Michael Cooper in action in the House of Commons, as most Canadians have for the last 4 years, very knowledgeable, very thoughtful. He made a serious mistake with a witness and showed disrespect to the witness. He apologized for that, but I'm troubled by unsubstantiated reports from something someone once said in university or school. I was in law school. There are great debates in the classrooms of law schools, as there should be on our campuses. To think that he's been in public life for 4 years and this is being brought up now unsubstantiated is disappointing.
And do you have any concerns about his status?
No. In fact, Michael, if anyone's watched his approach from the assisted dying bill in the early months of him being an MP, he's always been probably the best researched member of Parliament on any side of the caucus. He's always been thoughtful, but he made a mistake. It's easy to make a mistake when groups out there, led by the Prime Minister's office, are accusing parliamentarians, accusing Andrew Scheer, accusing myself of being bigots and racists. It's been very shameful to see the communication plan of the Prime Minister's office in the lead up to an election to create this type of division. at a time where we also know online the foreign influence that we're seeing on Facebook. There was reports about it today. Some of this toxic environment, the vomitorium, as the Privy Council clerk described it, some of it may even be influenced by foreign actors wanting this election to be divisive. So I think Michael apologized appropriately, but I think unsubstantiated stories from 10 years ago, it's bad if we're getting to that in Canadian political coverage.
Do you expect to see a lot of this in the campaign?
I hope not. I don't think Canadians want to see it. I think a lot of Canadians recognize that what happens online is not real world, but when people are making real allegations about someone and their character, or saying that events transpired in Canada or Parliament Hill that didn't really happen, and the Prime Minister's office is putting those messages out, that should concern Canadians. And I think let's talk on the issues. Let's talk on the records. Let's talk on the Trans Mountain, being approved 3 times and not a shovel in the ground. I think that's what Canadians want to see. And if we're encouraging good people to get into politics, you need to know that scurrilous charges will not be leveled without any form of support. There's enough of that online. We don't need to see it nationally. Any other questions?
What do you expect of the Prime Minister's visit to Washington? Well, we have to find an equilibrium with the United States as far as trade is concerned. But we have to get assurances that the President will talk with the President Xi about our situation between Canada and the United States.
Report on Khashoggi saying that the Crown Prince is implicated.
That's what I'm reading next.
Okay.
Thank you.